Hello, I'm Henry.
And I'm Trey.
And welcome to Marvelous, a Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast,
where we go through the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, show by show, movie by movie, in order of release. And today, we are talking about the one, the only, the practically best movie in the universe, depending on who you talk to. I think it is. Captain America, Winter Soldier.
Indeed! It is quite a great Marvel movie.
And not only that, but we have new things to be excited about. We're going to be changing up the podcast a little, so we'll have some new segments for you.
Indeed. So the IMDb synopsis for this movie is: as Steve Rogers struggles to embrace his role in the modern world, he teams up with a fellow Avenger and S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, Black Widow, to battle a new threat from history, an assassin known as the Winter Soldier.
Interesting. That's it?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that that's it, but I kind of like it because it doesn't spoil the twist of the movie.
I agree. It's funny to me that this movie is called Winter Soldier because I feel like he's not the main part of it.
Oh, I agree entirely. He seems pretty minor, but again, that would spoil the whole plot points with Hydra.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm glad that that's what they went with. So I mean, not a great synopsis of what actually happens, but good in the terms that it doesn't spoil things.
Yeah, it makes me really intrigued on what I originally thought this movie was going to be. Like how much we knew about Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. before the movie came out? Because I don't remember at all. Like, was it obvious that Hydra was taking over or no?
No. Well, not to me.
Okay, well, I mean, then it did a really good job of keeping the secret. So, great.
This was before I was Marvelous, though.
Fair enough. Well, I really wish I could remember.
It makes me want to watch the trailers, actually. Should we pause and do that? Okay, so we just paused to watch the trailer.
Indeed we did.
And wow, they really did make the entire trailer about Bucky.
Yeah, I mean, there were a few tidbits of some conspiracy in S.H.I.E.L.D., but not a single line about Hydra, obviously. And you could imagine it not having to do with S.H.I.E.L.D. being evil or corrupt in some way.
Did they say something about a S.H.I.E.L.D. conspiracy?
They said they don't know who to trust, and you see Fury injured, and Pierce saying, like, sometimes you gotta take the old world down, and the elevator fight in the Skellyon, so you can guess it pretty easily.
I don't think you could guess it from the elevator fight, but I am disappointed that they showed the elevator fight, because that spoils that entire scene if you remember the trailer.
They also show the helicarriers.
So?
They show it crashing into the Skellyon.
Yeah, I guess it indicates, like, a little bit, but for me, watching this trailer would not have really told me anything about Hydra or S.H.I.E.L.D.
And me, this is probably the time when I used to watch each trailer on repeat and analyze them closely. And I probably read about comic book stories related to it, so I'm guessing I knew. But it didn't really affect my enjoyment of the movie.
All right.
Trey, how about you give us some context for the film?
Sure, Henry. So this movie takes place after Captain America 1, obviously, where Cap is in World War II fighting Nazis, fighting Hydra, and he takes down the Red Skull, who's the leader. And he also loses his best friend, Bucky, who falls off the train to his death after he's been experimented on by Hydra. And then at the end of Captain America, he's awoken from his icy slumber to join us in the present for the Avengers movie. And then after the Avengers movie, where he fights with all the other Avengers, how long has it been?
About 2 or 3 years, I think.
How do we know that?
To be honest, I'm not sure about this part of the timeline. I feel like Phase 2 has a lot of the loosest parts of the timeline.
But we do know that Thor takes place either 1.5 to 2 years after Avengers?
In Thor: The Dark World, Jane says that Thor has been gone for approximately 2 years, and Thor 1 takes place approximately 6 months before the Avengers. So, if this movie takes place after that one, it has taken place around 2 years after the Avengers.
That was a lot of details.
Yeah.
Regardless, what you need to know is that in the present, Captain America is working for S.H.I.E.L.D. under Nick Fury.
Yes, as their most exceptional agent.
So, with that in mind, Henry, what were your first thoughts on the movie?
Well, before I say my first thoughts, I wanted to say that this is the movie that I was most concerned about before viewing it, because I thought a movie with Captain America in the present couldn't work very well. But once the trailers started coming out, and especially once I saw it, I was completely wrong. It was fantastic. What about you, Trey?
The very first time I saw it, to be honest, I didn't remember much from Captain America 1. I didn't even remember what Hydra was, so I was a little confused.
Did you remember who Bucky was?
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll talk about that later, I think.
Okay.
But I did like the movie the first time I saw it. I was just left it feeling a little confused. But then once I got into Marvel and rewatched them all, this movie stuck out as, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. So
It is quite, it's a great movie.
yeah, I really like it.
So Trey, what are your thoughts now?
Say that a little more excited, Henry. Come on.
Trey, what are your thoughts now?
I literally just paying attention to every detail of this movie when I watched it for this was just as excited about it as I was the first time. I feel like I like it even more now than I did the first time I watched it.
There are some movies that kind of decay over time because they don't feel as good as when they were fresh. Like what we talked about when we watched The Avengers. It just doesn't seem as amazing and spectacular anymore because we've seen even better movies and we've seen even cooler team-up movies. But Winter Soldier, unlike those, definitely has not decayed at all, and it is still great.
It's still what I think is the personal best of the MCU, aside from maybe the possible contender of Civil War, which I'm still not sure, and I'm gonna evaluate that once we get there again and be like, is this better? I'm trying to figure it out.
Interesting. Yes, I'm gonna have to reevaluate once I get there as well. But I think Iron Man 1 is definitely another contender for one of the best timeless movies that will always be good no matter what. It definitely doesn't have as strong as a villain, but the story is exceptional.
Yes. It's not as high as Winter Soldier in my book, though.
That's fine.
I know to you it is everything.
I love Iron Man, I'm sorry.
You should be sorry.
No.
Captain America is clearly where it's at.
Nope. Team Iron Man. Wrong Captain America movie. Okay. Shall we jump into the film?
Did we go into your thoughts now?
Oh, yes, it's still great. I thought I made that clear when I was talking about how some movies decay, but Winter Soldier is still great.
Yes. Okay.
Movie!
Movie.
We start with On Your Left.
Yeah, which... It's a pretty good introduction to Sam Wilson.
Yeah. It was a really fun way to introduce a new main character of the cinematic universe. Because usually you focus on the hero exclusively in the first scene, or the villain, depending on the movie. But introducing Sam Wilson at the same time was really fun. And that entire scene with Captain America running around DC, and then showing Sam Wilson his catch-up book, and him being picked up by Black Widow, all of this scene is an exceptional way to show us where Captain America is now.
Yeah, I still have no idea if Cap is purposefully messing with him when he's saying on your left.
I think the first time he was being polite, maybe the second time too. But once he saw Sam Wilson's responses, I'm sure he was just being silly.
Yeah, because when Sam's like, don't say it, and then he's like, on your left, I'm just like, there's no way you couldn't know. But yeah, there was one thing that Sam said in this scene that stuck out to me, and that's that he's like, man, you just ran like 13 miles in about 30 minutes, which means that Captain America runs about 26 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Which I was trying to think about the other movies because I couldn't remember if he outruns cars at any point. Because if he's only going 26 miles per hour, that doesn't seem like it should be happening.
In the movies we've seen so far, I don't know if we've seen any feats of that nature, but this was him essentially jogging instead of him sprinting at his maximum effort.
That's true.
So I wouldn't say that this is a good judge of his max speed, just a judge of his ridiculous stamina. He ran half a marathon.
Which I was also thinking about, but so I guess his max speed could go like, I don't know. I wonder what his max speed would be.
Fast.
Fair enough. Anyways, the very next scene goes into Captain America and Black Widow on a mission for Fury to a pirate ship.
It's not a pirate ship. It's a ship infested with pirates.
That makes it a pirate ship because they're in charge of it right now.
Touche. Touche. And they speak French.
Yes. So it's a shield ship that has been hijacked by pirates, and they're going to take it over. And I just have to say that this starts off the phenomenal action scenes that this movie brings to the table. And from this point forward, you see Captain America jump out of the plane with no parachute, and everyone else is just like, yep, he just jumped without a chute. And he dives into the water, he gets on the ship, takes out about like 20 guys by himself, and then later on in the same scene, he has a one-on-one fight with like a pretty good fighter guy. And just this entire first scene pretty much tells me that the writers and directors are performing an immediate overhaul of Captain America's character to put an end to like him as the weak one that's not really given the screen time he deserves or like the skills that he's capable of. And they're actually showcasing how much of a badass Captain America actually is, which I really like.
Yeah, because it's hard to remember that back at this point in the MCU, we weren't really aware of how powerful and awesome Cap was. He didn't really get to show off in the Avengers. Iron Man and the Hulk took most of the spotlight in that regard. So seeing how powerful and amazing he is in this movie was awesome and a perfect way to start the film.
Yeah, this movie definitely completely remade his character. This is the movie that got most people on board with Captain America.
Including myself. Like, this is what got me on board with Captain America in the modern world.
Including me as well. He definitely became my favorite only after this film. And it's not only this scene, but it's the action scenes throughout the movie. I think that this movie has pretty much the best action scenes we've seen so far in the MCU.
Ooh, that's interesting. They are really good in this movie, but I'm not sure if I like them better than Iron Man 3.
I think they're different than Iron Man 3.
Definitely.
Iron Man 3s were more about showcasing his brain and using like tech to do different neat things, whereas this movie's actually about like the action of the scenes.
Yeah, I definitely see what you mean by that.
Because I did really enjoy Iron Man 3's scenes as well. I just don't think they're the same type of scene.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to talk about my favorite action scene in the movie, which is the elevator scene, because this scene is literally what cements Captain America as my favorite. It's just so epic. It shows Captain America's detective skills when he notices the dude's hand on the gun. He sees all the people coming in. He focuses on the sweat dripping down some guy's head and is like, well, clearly something's about to happen. And then he announces that wonderful line of, before we get started, would anyone like to get out?
Yeah, which is perfect. Also, showing how many people they brought in to stop one man, again, shows how absolutely powerful he is.
Yeah, and he destroys all of them, all like 20 guys by himself in a tiny crowded elevator while with one hand secured to the wall.
Yeah, like they bring items specific for taking him out and they still fail.
And then on top of that, after he takes them out, he opens the doors ready to get out. There's an entire SWAT team waiting for him with guns. So quick thinking, he like spins and drops the entire elevator down. Then when that stops and he's stuck again and Sitwell's like, you're surrounded, he jumps out the window, landing on his frigging shield with like, I'm sorry, I'm geeking out a little bit.
It's okay. Let it out,
then,
Trey.
Yeah. And then he's riding his motorcycle and he goes head to head with a frigging jet plane that's just flying in front of him, about to shoot him down. He dodges it. He uses his shield to bring down the plane. He jumps onto the plane, brings the whole thing down by himself, and then lands on his feet with the shield, like pushing it into the ground in like this epic move. And that scene,
superhero landing.
Yes. Everything about this scene, I just have to say that this is when I fell in love with Captain America.
Yeah. Captain America soloing a Quinjet is absolutely amazing. That just, it's so cool. Especially how it happened right after the elevator scene. Like, we get one badass scene and then another one right after.
I can't even.
Maybe you should odd then.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry, it's my go-to joke. But yeah, this movie, it does an exceptional job of showing how awesome and powerful he is, but also how quick-witted and smart he can be. Like how before he escapes, he hides the USB stick he got from Fury in a vending machine, which was brilliant of him to think of.
Why was that brilliant?
Because he knew that he couldn't trust people in S.H.I.E.L.D., and he knew it was likely that he would be searched. Also, it was reasonable to assume not that many people would get gum from the machine, and he would be able to get back to it in time.
Okay, so I actually find this hilarious because this is what I wrote down as the, that's a stretch.
Aha, we're getting to one of our new segments already.
So I think it's time for our first segment, Henry.
Yeah. So Trey, why do you think it's such a stretch?
Because I agree with you on the motivation. I like that he hides it because he knows that S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to be taking him and might search him or whatever. But one, how the hell did he get it in there?
They showed a guy loading it up. He could have just reached over really quick.
Are you sure?
Do you remember how right after this movie came out, the Russo brothers were talking about how they tried to make the movie honest trailer proof?
Yes.
This was one of the things. They showed a maintenance guy reloading the vending machine in that scene, and he snuck it in while that guy was reloading the machine. It was open.
I totally have missed that every single time I've watched this movie then.
Maybe you should pay closer attention, Trey.
I swear that they showed the machine and then it was suddenly in there, and I was like, how did he get that in there?
It's because they show a guy loading it up, then cut to Rumlow, or whatever that agent's name is, demanding that Cap comes with them. Then he talks to Romanoff. Then he goes with them. But there's a split second where they cut away before that, and then they cut to the vending machine having the memory stick in it.
Okay, so well anyways, that was only part of it. So my second gripe is that's really your best hiding place for top secret information. The second spot in the gum section of a vending machine that anybody in this entire hospital could use. And you can see the USB in there. Someone could literally just be like, oh, there's a USB. I'm gonna get it to find out what it is.
But then they have to buy gross gum.
That's like 50 cents. There's two packs to get that thing.
I think there was more than one before it, but there were agents right there waiting for him. He had to hide something that second.
I know, and I get that. I just feel like anywhere else would have been better.
What did you want him to do? Shove it up his butt? He had like 5 seconds to choose. I think it was a good idea.
Like, storage closet, I don't know, behind a desk, under something. Like, if he's coming back, they didn't see him put it in the vending machine.
Well, Romanoff did. I don't know, maybe they turned for just a second. They would have noticed if he opened the door, but not if he turned.
I'm calling it that's a stretch.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about your that's a stretch?
I wasn't sure if I should or not, because mine is Zola, later in the movie. Him being in an ancient set of computers, which is just absolutely ridiculous. It's fun for the movie, but such an obnoxious stretch. We couldn't do that now. They couldn't do that then.
I mean, I feel like the Marvel universe is an advanced universe that has technology beyond our dreams. So I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say they can do something that we can't.
They're using technology from the 60s or 70s or whatever. It wasn't beyond our dreams. This has nothing from Wakanda. It's the technology of the past.
But it's S.H.I.E.L.D., Henry. So they have top secret technology and they have way more advanced things than we have.
They specified that he's literally stored on old server tapes. They told us what the technology was.
So?
It's so ridiculous.
I feel like I've seen this concept float around a lot. Is it really not possible to store someone?
We can't even do that now.
I mean, it's a science fiction thing. And this is science fiction.
It's okay. I guess it's more of a stretch to me because it's using technology of the past, not technology of today. And even by today, it's a stretch. So it being of the past is so ridiculous.
If you want them to be set in our real world, then sure. I accept that it is not.
Well, whatever. I'm really liking that our first segment of That's a Stretch was me saying something is genius and you're being like, well, that was actually dumb. Anyways, should we continue?
Yes.
So, before we get ahead of ourselves too much, while they were on the ship in the beginning, Steve Rogers catches Black Widow doing some extra secret mission on the ship that Fury had ordered her to do. And this was the tipping point of Captain America losing trust for S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, I'm really confused about the whole situation with the ship, because apparently Fury hired the pirates in order for them to have a way on for Nat to get this information off the ship servers. But why was the information on the ship servers if, I guess, Sitwell took it somehow, but why was it on the ship servers?
Because that was the ship that they used to launch the Project Insight satellites. So the information had to be on there to give to the satellites to launch up.
Oh my gosh, that makes so much more sense now.
Haha! Honest trailer proof.
I literally didn't know the ship launched satellites until you said it earlier in this episode.
I didn't remember. I didn't even notice until I was watching closer this time around.
Well, it's a good thing you picked that up. But yeah, so that was the tipping point for Cap. Well, it wasn't really the tipping point because he wasn't like completely distrustful of S.H.I.E.L.D., but it was certainly a tipping point of, can I really trust S.H.I.E.L.D.? And bringing up all these questions.
Yeah, and it's what made him want to talk to Fury about it. I meant the tipping point for him being like, am I really in the right place? Obviously, the tipping point of whether or not he should trust S.H.I.E.L.D. altogether was when Fury sneaks in after being attacked. Speaking of action scenes, Fury being attacked was amazing.
Yes, it was.
But it's obviously a different kind of combat, but it's so cool.
Yeah, and him talking to Fury leads into some interesting questions about morality, because Fury shows him Project Insight, and one of the major themes about this movie is freedom versus security, and basically the moral implications of both. So Fury wants to protect the human race by launching these Project Insight helicarriers that will basically hold a gun to the head of everyone on Earth because it's supposed to shoot down any terrorists that might come out of hiding, like, before they even act. And Cap is like, you're holding a gun to everyone on Earth and calling it protection. That's not freedom, that's fear. I fought so that everyone could be free, and you're basically taking all that away in order to protect them. And I just think it's a really interesting topic because it is a huge one of today, and it also ties in a lot with technology and everything they also went into about the digital age being an open book and everyone has all of their information online and just like all this crazy stuff, because we're basically putting our information out there for everyone else to know all these details about us and use our past to predict our future exactly as these technologies are doing. I just really like the themes that it's showing about the dangers of technology and social media and how much organizations and governments can learn about us from our digital presence that seems so hugely applicable to today. Because these are literally things that I learned in my media studies classes in college, and then I go see this movie and it's showing all of them.
Yeah, they are definitely very current and important topics that we should all think about more. And I definitely like how it brings a focus to it from the perspective of Cap, who grew up in an age without all this technology.
That's very true.
So he has a much greater appreciation for the change.
It's almost ironic that the Captain America sequel is the one to have this commentary about technology in our society, because he's the only person who like would have had no exposure to it before now.
Yeah.
Also, it made me wonder though, why is Fury showing him this?
I think it was to regain his trust, to be like, hey, you want to know what we're doing? This is what we're doing.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't remember that specific detail, but I do like that when they're showing the helicarriers, we get a few references to the Avengers, like the fact that there's new helicarriers and the fact that Tony Stark gave them some tips after seeing the engines up close because he almost got crushed in one.
Yeah, I agree. That was funny. And there are actually quite a few tie-ins in this movie, though. I mean, I'm not sure if you can call them tie-ins, but basically when Cap confronts Fury about not telling him what the mission actually was, and Fury's like, it's called compartmentalization, something S.H.I.E.L.D. does a lot. That's something we've actually seen in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. before now.
Yeah.
I thought it was a nice little lead-in from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which made Fury's side seem more understandable, actually.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about how this is the first movie that had some benefits from the shows themselves, rather than the movies just benefiting the shows.
Indeed. Also, Fury says, the last time I trusted somebody, I lost an eye, which may not be a tie-in yet, but he's going to be in Captain Marvel with 2 eyes, and I am waiting to find out the story behind this.
And it takes place in the 90s.
Yes. So we may finally get to know why Fury lost his eye.
We will almost certainly find out.
And then the last tie-in that I noticed was when they bring up Stephen Strange as someone who would be...
Targeted by Project Insight?
Yes, as someone who could stand against Hydra in the future.
Yeah, and he got brought up way before his movie came out.
Way before, but it was cool. It's definitely a fun Easter egg to call back to.
Yeah, for sure. And then, I really like the next few scenes, but they kind of feel like they're the weakest in the movie a little bit. Because they're just to reestablish what happened in Captain America 1. First, we have the museum trip, where Captain America goes to visit a museum based around his own adventures. And we see how kids are admiring him, and we learn a little bit about Bucky and Hydra. And then right after, he visits Peggy, who is now old and has Alzheimer's or some issue with memory, which both of these scenes are great. But I feel like the museum trip, at least, wasn't really necessary if the audience knew what was going on in advance.
The museum trip definitely wasn't, but it was clearly their way of saying, oh, let's catch the audience up.
Yeah, and I suppose it did a good job of that. To me, it just lost the rhythm a little bit.
Indeed. I thought Peggy's scene was heartbreaking, though.
It is heartbreaking, but it's cool that they still had her in it.
It is, and I mean, seeing her as an old woman with, I guess it's Alzheimer's?
I assume so.
Where she has moments of lucidity and other times where she, like, doesn't even remember that Steve came back. It's tear-wrenching, I guess. Well, I didn't cry, but...
You didn't cry? How dare you?
I'm sure you cried, right, Henry?
I cried every tear imaginable.
Sure you did.
All of the tears, every single one of them. So, after this, we see Fury getting denied access to his own files that Black Widow got from the ship. And then we cut to Secretary Pierce talking to the World Council, who I guess is in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D., which this is the last time it really matters. But what is S.H.I.E.L.D. in charge of? Are they an American thing or are they a world thing? S.H.I.E.L.D. stands for the Strategic Homeland Intervention Enforcement and Logistics Division or something. It says Homeland. I would assume that means America. So, what is S.H.I.E.L.D.? How much power do they have?
I feel like we've talked about this about 4 times now.
Yeah. It's way more confusing in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because you have no idea what authority they have. But in this movie, it's fine. S.H.I.E.L.D. is some sort of super important intelligence agency controlled by the entire world in some way.
But then at the end of the movie, when it's gone, they did say, you've left our country defenseless, or something to that extent. And I was like, if you're specifying country, does that mean S.H.I.E.L.D. is specific to your country?
Yeah, I would love some more information about this.
But it doesn't matter for much longer.
Yeah.
But speaking of Fury trying to access his files, I've always been so confused how he's denied access to his files on authority of himself. Like, I get that apparently someone else is supposed to have hacked his authority and done it that way, but it just doesn't make sense to me.
Huh. You know, I've never really been weirded out by that. I always just thought it was kind of neat, but it is pretty weird. Like, what's the point? I guess they didn't want to reveal who actually locked him out because that would reveal who the traitors are.
Yeah, I'm honestly just impressed that anyone could pretend to have Fury's authority to the point that the system assumes it was his authority that locked himself out. I don't know. It's confusing.
I think Pierce has the same level of authority as he has.
Yeah, but then the system would say Pierce did it.
I don't know, man.
Exactly. Regardless, we come to the super epic scene of Fury's car chase with the fake police.
Oh, this is such a cool scene. His car is so amazing.
His car is ridiculous.
I love how cool this fight is. How it can resist tons of people shooting at it. It can resist a battering ram for a little while. Apparently it can fly, but we didn't get to see that. Apparently its air conditioning is very good at withstanding bullets. He just drives through traffic because who cares? Like, it's so cool. All of the scene.
And it can drive itself, and it has weapon systems, and it can detect its surroundings and answer his questions.
And detect his injuries.
Yep.
Oh, it's almost like Baby Jarvis.
Yeah.
With a War Machine car. It's so cool.
A War Machine car?
Like, we just put all the guns on it.
Oh, sure.
Even though I guess it's just one minigun. It's just so cool.
It's not a minigun. It was a frigging giganto gun that was shooting.
It's a mini machine gun.
Yes.
I shouldn't have said minigun because there is a real minigun, the Gatling gun, later on in the movie, and those are what miniguns are.
Yep. Anyways, everything about the scene was great. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
Well, it was a great introduction to the Winter Soldier.
It also showed us way more what Fury's skill capabilities are, because...
Oh, yeah.
Like, we haven't really seen him do anything like this before, and this is the first time we actually see him fight and be badass himself.
And he is amazingly badass.
He's so cool. Literally everyone in this movie is, like, at their best.
Oh, they're so cool.
Black Widow, I would say, is also the best characterization she's gotten so far, and the most kick-ass with all of her fight scenes.
For sure.
Sam Wilson is his first introduction, and he's done super well.
He's so cool.
Nick Fury is just beast. And Captain America completely rewrote his entire image. So this movie is on point.
For sure.
And yeah, it was a cool introduction of Winter Soldier.
Yeah, and Fury escaping underground because he's just always prepared was a great end of the scene.
Yep, it definitely was.
So after this, and Fury is on the run, he hides in Captain America's place, which seems like a weird choice since he knows personally that it's bugged. But he does know he can trust Captain America. And their whole interaction of showing how they trust each other greatly and don't at the same time is fantastic. I really enjoyed how Cap didn't just obey him instantly. He questioned him. And I like how they snuck around the bugs in his apartment. And after Fury is shot, that chase scene with Captain America trying to chase down Winter Soldier was really awesome. Except one weird thing about the scene is when the Winter Soldier catches Captain America's shield, he throws it back. Wouldn't it be great to keep it because it's made out of vibranium, the most valuable substance in the world?
Yeah, you would think.
I would've.
I thought the same thing. But I don't know. I guess it would give Cap more reason to follow him, and then he wouldn't have, like, paused because he caught the shield, so he didn't get a chance to see where he went. I don't know.
That's my guess as well, but seems like a great opportunity that was missed.
Indeed.
But yes, Fury has been shot, and he is dead?
Oh no! Oh, also we get the introduction of Sharon Carter.
Yeah, I don't like how she was used here as just like some other S.H.I.E.L.D. agent that was spying on Cap. Because I feel like Sharon Carter and Cap would have met each other before, because she's Peggy's living descendant and has joined S.H.I.E.L.D. and is working for S.H.I.E.L.D. I feel like they would have gotten to know each other by now.
I don't know. Peggy's pretty old, and he visits her in, like, the old person's home, so I feel like the only way they would have gotten to know each other is if she'd also been visiting her at the same time.
I mean, I know that if I woke up after being frozen for 70 years, I would look up the descendants of people I cared about.
Perhaps. I don't know if I would do that.
I don't know. I thought that was kind of weird. Also, it felt kind of weird that Cap has been walking around S.H.I.E.L.D. all the time, but hasn't walked into Coulson. Same thing with Black Widow.
Has Coulson been at the Triskelion?
No, but this is where the timeline gets a little bit confusing because I believe there was a time before the show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. started and after Coulson's resurrection, where he would have been at the Triskelion, maybe. It just seems like a lot to hide.
I don't know, considering in the first episode of S.H.I.E.L.D. that Coulson... People did not know Coulson was alive until they said, well, welcome to level 7, I'm alive.
Yeah, but he kept being connected to, like, world-altering events. So there was never another scene of people being like, oh, Coulson! I had no idea you were alive. People were just like, Coulson, how did you recover? It never felt like a mystery anymore.
I don't have a problem with Captain America not running into him.
I just wanted to mention it because it's the first time the movies kind of blatantly ignore stuff from S.H.I.E.L.D., which happens more often later on.
I mean, it's definitely blatantly ignoring stuff from S.H.I.E.L.D. because S.H.I.E.L.D. is about to directly tie into this movie.
Yes, but as far as the movies go, Coulson is pretty much still dead. It's just a thing where the TV universe and the movie universe have kind of diverged since this point.
Yeah, definitely. I mean... diverged. They were never really converged because S.H.I.E.L.D. was the first show.
Yeah. Well, this is the most connected they ever have been.
True.
And the most connected they ever will be.
True. Also, at the hospital, when Fury dies, quote, Black Widow gives her whole backstory with the Winter Soldier, which apparently on a mission in her past, she had a charge that was some kind of engineer who was a target of Winter Soldier's, so the Winter Soldier shot the engineer through her stomach, which, cool?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. It's pretty badass. It's like, your target is being protected by another person, shoot through them, who cares? They're just flesh.
Yeah, I guess the only...
There's nothing superhuman about it, it's just cool.
I feel like it's an interesting note because I don't think anyone really remembers this. Like, after this scene, I don't know, it seemed like a way to try and have her tie into the Winter Soldier's story, but it doesn't have any significance to the story.
You're right, and I feel like it's something that should be more important in later movies and isn't.
I agree, but apparently this is the history of Black Widow and Bucky, which, I don't know. It seems like it should be more important.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just a cool way to, like, secretly bring up the Winter Soldier to be like, not many people know about him, but me, an elite agent, has run into him once before.
For sure.
Yeah, and also, earlier in the movie, we've seen Black Widow and Cap be really buddy-buddy, but this scene shows her beginning to really open up to him. How she says she only pretends to know everything. And slowly throughout the movie, she really opens up to Cap more and more. Especially once they're on the run together. Like, first they go to the mall and have a funny scene in the Apple store, and then Black Widow shows him funny ways of disguising himself in public by kissing people and stuff like that. We get to see more of her true personality and skills in action.
Definitely. And they have the perfect bromance. Like, I love their relationship dynamic. It's pretty great. And
wait, did he say romance or bromance?
Bromance.
Okay, just making sure.
They are great friends.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah, Black Widow trying to hook him up with dates the entire movie is great.
Okay, also, she asks him if that was his first kiss since 1945, and he says no. Who did he kiss?
He has a life.
What girl has he met that he's gone on a date with and actually, like, made out with?
I don't know. I wonder if he, like, goes to bars or anything, because, like, in Cap 1, it shows that he was a person who likes to drink enough, apparently, but he can't get drunk anymore. So he was sober, at least.
Yeah, but I feel like this is the writer's way of saying Captain America isn't a virgin, see? But
they did not say anything that far. They just said kiss.
They didn't, but they're implying that he's not, like, a naive person with no experience, which, based on what we see of these movies, that's all we get of him. Like, we see no relationship experience at all, aside from his tiny thing with Peggy. And in my mind, he's always been like, does that mean he's still a virgin? But apparently he's had a kiss with someone, and I want to know who this person is.
Find them. Hunt them down.
I need more information. You can't just say that. If this is Captain America, who's he kissing? I'm done.
Well, jeez, I didn't expect to go that far in depth about that part. So yeah, they escape from the mall. They steal a car, which is a nod to the original Captain America movie because he stole a car in that movie and it was funny. I need to watch it. I never actually did.
Which one?
I don't know. Are there multiple?
There's 2 bad ones at least.
Oh God.
I watched one of them and I don't remember anything.
Okay. Well, anyways, they steal a car. They have more of their personal talks in the car about Romanoff trying to deal with the fact that she's always playing a role and never really being herself. And then they get to the military base and meet my good friend Zola, the computer man, and find out the truth of Project Insight. And that Howard Stark was killed by Hydra.
Yes, we do. Because Hydra has course-corrected history for anyone that stood against them.
Yes.
Which, this twist is phenomenal. I love that Hydra has been growing as a parasite inside S.H.I.E.L.D. this whole time. And that it's basically taken the most trusted organization we have and turned it on its head. I think it is fantastic.
Yeah, it's really cool how just a few corrupt members of this organization have completely flipped it on its side to take over the most powerful machines they have ever made, to kill every hero the world will ever know in order to bring, well, order to the world.
Though I am a little confused why Zola in the first movie was like, he always seemed so reluctant and cowardly and like regretful of his actions and of Red Skull's actions. He told the Nazis to tell Hitler that he wasn't going to be part of them and all this stuff. And Zola the whole time just looked like, oh no, to everything. But apparently was super supportive of Hydra after that, which confuses me.
Yeah, I agree. I remember when we rewatched Captain America for the podcast, I was like, oh, Zola's kind of not that bad, but I know in the next movie he's super evil.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Also, I really wonder what Hydra's world order looks like, and like they need to kill all these people to stop them from rising up against them, but what does their world actually look like if they're in power?
I think they wanted to have a complete dictatorship where anyone who even has the capacity of revolting is taken out. So everyone who is smart, everyone who is creative, everyone who is rebellious is taken out in advance.
Sounds like communist Russia.
I suppose. Like, it's a world without change.
Okay.
That's what I think the goal is. And when we hear it from Pierce's lips later on in the movie, he follows Hydra because he wants full control of the world to bring peace. Because he believes you could kill 20 million people to bring complete world peace to the rest of the world. In their eyes, it's peace in exchange for full control.
Well, that's certainly an interesting outlook.
But it goes really well with the themes of the movie that you talked about before.
Yeah, I was going to say this ties in with that same theme about freedom versus security, because he even says that he created a world so chaotic that humanity is finally willing to sacrifice its freedom to gain its security. Which is like, it's literally in there.
Yeah, it's just taken to the complete extreme.
But another thing I wanted to mention from this scene is that I think it's funny that they have all the old technology and then just like the super updated USB port plugged into it.
Yeah, and the like internet router or whatever.
Yes, and it also made me wonder, does this mean that people from S.H.I.E.L.D. have just been constantly coming here to be in talks with Zola the whole time? Like, since he died in the 70s or whatever?
I don't know. I guess they don't need to talk to him that often. Like, they had the plan, and Zola made the algorithm. They didn't need to check in with him that much, I guess?
Yeah, but he made the algorithm recently, which suggests that he's been in the background the entire time with plans and stuff.
I don't know.
I know. Me either. That made me wonder, because I'm like, you've been here for a long time.
Yeah, and now he's exploded, so we'll never find out.
This is true. Another detail that I liked about this scene, though, is that they specify that everything Captain America sacrificed himself for in his first movie basically means absolutely nothing now.
Because cut off one head and 2 more come back.
Yep. So I like that he has to, like, face his demons again.
Yeah. His mortal enemies, Hydra, is back.
Yep. So Then they go to Sam for shelter, which, to be honest, is... I do love it. I love everything about his character and his loyalty to Captain America, but it is so fast.
You guys eat breakfast, right?
Yeah.
Or do breakfast.
It's just like, he's so trustworthy of him so quickly. Like, oh, we are fugitives. We're literally most wanted, but we can stay here, right? Because I met you one time or twice.
Yeah, I kind of wish that they established that Cap and Sam already knew each other, but had only recently gotten to know each other better. Because there was the scene of Cap seeing his therapy session, and they have like some good conversations. But yeah, it was really fast.
They definitely have stuff in common, and they've shown good interactions with them twice. It seems very quick for Sam to be like, well, I'm completely loyal to everything this man does. Where he goes, I go. What he does, I do, just slower. That's literally what he says in this movie.
Dude, Captain America needs my help.
What better reason to get back? Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
I love his loyalty and I love everything with him. It definitely seems quick.
He's so cool, though.
He's great. And his Falcon suit is pretty cool.
Yeah, he's way more cool and exciting to watch than War Machine as a flying sidekick.
Definitely, I had the same thought. Yeah, they did a much better job with the sidekick this time.
Yeah. Though, I feel like War Machine is supposed to be a doofus in the MCU, so it's okay.
Sure. I don't think it's okay, but sure.
Well, I really like how the next scene is them capturing Sitwell, and how Black Widow kicks Sitwell off a roof, and Falcon just catches him and brings him back up to be like, we could just throw you off a roof a whole bunch of times until you talk.
Yep.
That's pretty hardcore and a great way to introduce the Falcon suit.
Yeah, and the introduction is just icing on the cake with this movie. I feel like it introduces everything so well, and there's always a payoff.
Yeah, I really wish I could remember what it was like to see Falcon's suit the first time in the movie. I mean, it was in trailers, so I already knew it was coming. And either way, I would have known that he was playing the Falcon. But I can't remember what it was like to see that scene for the first time. And I wish I could.
I'm sorry.
It's sad.
No memories for you.
Man. It's so hard to rewatch things with twists that you already know the twist to.
Sometimes.
One other quick thing about this scene before they capture Sitwell, they have that gross senator from Iron Man 3 pop up and like whisper in Sitwell's ear, "Hail Hydra." It's like, that was so weird and strange. It didn't feel right.
Well, not only that, but he talks about the young journalists who are breaking his back.
Oh, yeah. He's just a gross person.
Gross, 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 gross. But then in the very next scene, after they kidnap Sitwell, the Winter Soldier, like, grabs him from inside their car and throws him out, and I think killing him?
Yeah, Sitwell's dead.
Yeah.
He betrayed them, so he was fine to kill.
Goodbye, Sitwell. You were a fun character to have cameos of on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
You will not really be missed, I suppose.
Yeah, and then we get the huge highway scene between Steve and Bucky, or I guess Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
And Black Widow and Falcon and a bunch of elite Hydra agents. And it's just so cool.
Yep.
You gotta see everyone shine.
It's really good, and I know a lot of people have been posting on Reddit recently about how the knife fight is the best fight scene in the MCU, which I don't agree with because I like the elevator scene better, but I just thought I'd throw that out there. Some people think that.
I don't think I would give either of those best fight in the entire MCU. Although this movie is one of the contenders for best movie in the MCU, I wouldn't give it best combat in the MCU. But the scene is absolutely amazing, and you get to see everyone shine. You get to see Black Widow use her intelligence and gadgets to take care of the Winter Soldier and other agents, like how she uses her grappling hook to survive a fall. She catches a glimpse of the Winter Soldier's shadow and catches him off guard. She electrocutes his arm so that he lets go of her and uses a voice recording of herself to trick the Winter Soldier of where she was. It's just great.
Yeah, she's fantastic in this scene. Well, so is Captain America.
Yeah, he takes on so many people. Him deflecting bullets from some of the soldiers to the others were really cool, especially that guy with the, like, actual giant minigun machine gun. It's just so awesome, and his fight with Bucky is great, and the reveal of who Bucky was really well done.
It was, though I do have to say on this, the first time I watched this movie, the entire time Bucky was on screen, it was so obvious to me who he was.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest problems with the movie is it wasn't much of a twist who the Winter Soldier was.
But when I watch it with other people, it is a twist. Like, they don't...
Really?
Yeah, like it's actually like a gasp moment. And I'm like, okay.
I feel like that wouldn't have even worked with me. I knew that twist in advance. It wasn't a surprise to me. But if I hadn't known, I probably would have just been confused in this moment because just his face with the long hair would have thrown me off until Steve actually says Bucky or whatever.
Well, I know the actor from The Covenant, but it's just, I feel like if they had kept his face covered, including his eyes up to this point, it might have worked. But showing his eyes are so distinctive. Like, I could tell right away who he was. Plus, sitting in the dark at Pierce's house, his face wasn't even covered, and the bottom half of his face was in the dark, but you could still see it, and you could, I don't know, I could definitely tell who he was.
Interesting, I didn't think about that. And the other weird thing was that he never put the mask back on after it was taken off.
Yeah.
Like, if that's his normal gear, why didn't they just give him repaired gear afterwards?
Like, if he's like a plain-looking dude that you can't even tell by looking at his eyes, then sure, but he's very distinctive looking, in my opinion.
Yeah, having Black Widow shoot off the goggles probably wasn't the best choice there.
Well, he also, in a previous scene in the movie, he also had no eye goggles.
Oh, okay.
And that was when he caught Cap's shield, I think.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, just a note. I think that the Bucky stuff is probably the weakest part of this movie on a first watch, but on a rewatch, I don't have any problems with it.
Yeah, it's a little odd, for sure. But after this whole fight, our heroes are captured by S.H.I.E.L.D., though they are very quickly rescued by Maria Hill, who also gets to show off how much of a badass she is.
Yeah, even though it's a very small second, I'm like, I love this so much.
I love every scene that Maria Hill's in. I love how, like, as soon as she takes the mask off, she's just like, God, I hate wearing these things. Especially because I had to wear a similar thing for work for a few months, and it was the worst.
Yeah. But Maria takes them to Fury, who is actually alive.
Oh, what a surprise.
Which...
I mean, it was a surprise the first time around, but not this time.
Yeah. Not really a good surprise. I mean, it's good that he's not dead, but... Can we just go into worst repeat offender right now?
Yeah, there we go. So one of our other segments is worst repeat offender. And I think we are both going to agree that Marvel never kills anyone.
Yes. And this was actually an argument I was having with myself because I put worst repeat offender for Fury not being dead, but I changed my mind.
Well, this is definitely my worst repeat offender.
It's annoying. I don't like when people fake their deaths in our back.
Yeah. There are definitely too many fake deaths in Marvel, and it reminds me of the worst moments in a lot of anime.
Which I guess we should probably specify that by worst repeat offender, we mean things that Marvel does too much.
Yes.
And or things that are movie cliches in general, which is going to be mine because the BFF being brainwashed evil is what I decided I dislike more than Fury being alive.
Yeah, that's a good one, too.
Because it's so overdone. When I saw this movie, I was like, really? Like, they're doing this? Because hasn't this been done 8 million times? But yeah. I understand because it's from the comics, blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah, well, really quickly, just to talk about other fake deaths in the MCU, we have Loki's fake death in Thor 2, we have Pepper's fake death in Iron Man 3, and Coulson's fake death in Avengers, even though, like I said before, since the movies and TV series have diverged, it doesn't matter as much. Also, he did die and then was brought back.
Yeah. Just like, I guess, non-permadeath.
Yeah. But I just wanted to highlight that this is a repeat offense, not a new offense.
Indeed. Also, we get a Joe Russo cameo. Or is it Anthony Russo?
I don't know.
We get a cameo from one of the Russo brothers. I think it's Joe Russo.
Yeah, I don't know which is which.
And he just says a line in Fury's hospital room.
Yeah, he's just the doctor. Which I feel like it's kind of funny that only one of them was in the movie and not the other.
Yeah, it's kind of weird since they're both the directors and the writers.
And brothers.
Yeah. Why is that a thing?
I don't know. I would have wanted to be in my own movie if my other brother director man was in it.
Probably. I feel like maybe his brother was like, you should cameo or something. Because whatever.
Yeah. Well, speaking of cameos, pretty soon after this, we have Stan Lee's cameo in the museum when Captain America steals his old suit from the museum. And he is so fired.
Yeah, that's a great cameo.
That was a good cameo. I couldn't remember what the Stan Lee cameo was in this movie in advance, so it catching me off guard again was great.
Yes, it was.
But some other references in this scene include Fury mentioning that the drug that made people think he was dead was created by Bruce Banner to calm him down from being the Hulk.
That's true. I guess I didn't get everything with my tie-ins.
No, you did not.
Something else that happens around this time is that we see Bucky remember Steve after the fight when he's talking to Pierce. He's showing signs of like confusion and memory. And Pierce says to prep him, but they say he's been out of cryo freeze too long. And this has always confused me because I don't know what this means. Like, is he prepping him for cryo freeze? Has he been out of cryo freeze too long so he can't go back into it? I don't understand that. But then they say he's been out of cryo freeze too long, and they're like, oh, well, then just wipe him and start over. Which, I don't know. I don't get it.
Maybe he would have regained his memories either way if he was kept awake long enough.
So it seems to be tied to his cryo freeze, like he needs to be wiped to be in cryo freeze. But that doesn't make any sense.
I don't think so. I think they just wipe his memory routinely to make sure he doesn't remember anything.
But then why couldn't they put him into cryo freeze before they wipe him, but they can do it after?
I don't know. I don't think they were preparing him for cryo freeze. They were preparing him for another mission.
Then why has he been out of cryo freeze too long?
Because this mission has taken a long time.
But what is that statement saying? What does that mean? What is bad about him being out of cryo freeze?
I don't know. I think they are assuming that him being out of cryo freeze is what's leading him to remember more, whether or not that's true. And they haven't had him out of cryo freeze for this long, so that's their best guess.
Okay, I'm not going to be satisfied with this answer, but okay.
I don't know. I don't have anything better for you.
All right. Well, are we going on to the final fight then?
Well, I wanted to mention one more thing. When Fury and the gang are all together in that dam, Fury mentions that Pierce had once been selected for a Nobel Peace Prize and he declined it, which would be the sign of a very good and honorable man. And if I remember correctly, there is a person in power of a country right now who is doing some very bad things, and she has a Nobel Peace Prize. So I thought it was interesting to see a fictional character have a similar background.
Indeed.
It was something that felt more interesting now than when the movie was new.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting.
But now I guess we should get to the final battle.
Yes, which starts with them crashing S.H.I.E.L.D. and Captain America speaking to everyone over the speakerphone, and he tells everyone the problems with Hydra infecting S.H.I.E.L.D. and gives them a motivating speech about how the price of freedom is high, but it's a price I'm willing to pay. If I'm the only one, so be it, but I'm willing to bet that I'm not.
And he isn't.
He isn't, and I love this because it's basically a call to action for all the people to make a stand for what's right, and it's like, returning power to the people, like one of our principles of democracy. I don't know. I really like that.
Yeah, it was cool and a really rousing speech, and I like how Falcon also asked him, was that just off the top of your head, or did you write it in advance? Because it just seemed so perfect.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and it reminds us of why Captain America is such a great leader.
Yet, indeed.
Which is why he's the leader of the Avengers.
But then we get some smaller battles that are cool before the actual big fight, like...
Rumlow?
Yeah, so the small battle we get is Rumlow versus Sharon Carter.
And tons of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents.
Yeah, and tons of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, just all making a stand after Cap's speech, which is pretty cool.
It's inspirational.
Inspirational. And then we get on to the actual battle.
I like how they do a very good job of weaving together all these different scenes at the same time. How Black Widow is currently disguised as one of the World Council members. We have Rumlow and other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents kind of having a moral fight against each other. We have Captain America and Falcon invading the helicarriers, and then later Falcon and Rumlow fighting 1-to-1. They do a very good job of meshing these all together.
The Russo brothers are definitely very good at the action scenes, which honestly surprises me since before this wasn't the only thing they'd done, like Community.
I don't know.
Well, anyways, they're very good at that.
Yeah. So the action in these scenes are absolutely incredible, especially for me personally, the stuff with Falcon, because I always love flying characters, especially mechanically flying characters. Like him dodging all of the guns from the battleships in a Quinjet is just amazing and so cool. And just the fact that all of these fights, they have to be super conscious of how high they are in the air is just great. They're always on the precipice of death.
Yeah, it was pretty epic. And I liked that his wings got shot off and he got grounded too, because it felt scary.
They get shot off or like yanked off by the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, one of them does.
Good thing he had a parachute.
Indeed. Also, when Pierce is trying to make an example out of one of the World Security Council members who's standing up to him, and the old lady just steps in and basically beats him up because she's actually Black Widow. That was a pretty cool scene, though I'm so sad. To this day, I am so sad that that was Black Widow, because I thought it was actually like a cool, completely separate character, like older lady who's just super badass at fighting too and standing up to him, but it wasn't. It was Black Widow.
That would have been neat. We don't have many old masters
No.
in the MCU at this point. The closest thing we had to that was Fury in this movie.
Plus, like, getting a second badass female character and an older one would just be awesome.
Trey, are you trying to have more than one badass female character? That's clearly too much. Well, this is the end of that.
Yeah.
This is Black Widow's last movie of being the only main female protagonist.
Yes, it is. But also from this scene, I am very curious what actually happened to the older World Security Council lady that Black Widow's impersonating.
That's a good point, because isn't she in theory a good person?
I don't know.
And a diplomat from another nation?
I have no idea. All I know is that she's a World Security Council leader, and she wasn't there, apparently, because Black Widow's her.
Maybe they talk to each other? And diplomatically were like, hey, can you help me out here?
I would love to know that tiny detail.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And while we're at it, she can beat up some bad guys. The old lady.
Yeah, that was definitely really cool. One other weird thing about this scene, though, is that they introduce alpha level when Pierce says they need 2 alpha level members to reveal all of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s secrets to the world. And then Fury comes and does his badass, you need to keep both eyes open line. Mm-hmm. From S.H.I.E.L.D., I don't understand what alpha level is, because I thought Fury was level 10 and that was the max, but now Pierce is also that level and you need 2 of them, and it's alpha level, not a number, and I just, what are these levels? This is a thing where Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. complicated a thing in a movie that I wouldn't have cared about if I hadn't watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I guess that's an interesting point, since before this we knew about 10 levels and level 10 was the highest.
Yeah, maybe they just call 10 alpha level because it truly is the top, but whatever.
Yeah, maybe.
But that scene is awesome because Fury being like, you better keep both eyes open, and revealing his destroyed eye was cool. Except I feel like a destroyed eye wouldn't properly be able to be retinally scanned. And if you're going to go through the trouble of changing his first retinal scan, you would know about the second one.
I think the idea was that somehow Fury had implemented a secret
like backup system.
Yeah, like into the system that no one knew about because it was his non-official retinal scan. I don't know how that would have worked, but that's what it seems like they're going for.
Yeah, that's probably true, and it was cool.
A few other things to note about this final scene, aside from all the fighting was cool, is that Natasha hacks S.H.I.E.L.D.'s database and dumps all of Hydra's and S.H.I.E.L.D.'s secrets all over the internet for the public.
Including her own dark history that she didn't want anyone to know about before, but all of her interactions with Captain America before made her confident about revealing the truth about herself. which we didn't talk about that when they were at Falcon's place before. How in a moment of weakness, Natasha was asking Steve about like, hey, would you trust me with your life? And Steve is like, I would now. And that's such an important moment to her because now she knows that there are people that care about like the real her and trust the real her.
Yep. I still don't understand why he wasn't shirtless in that scene. It was perfect opportunity. Anyways.
Was he not?
No.
I mean, I clearly wouldn't care as much as you, but he had just come out of the shower.
I think the only shirtless scene we ever get of Captain America is in the first one, and it makes me very sad. Yeah, but he was wearing an undershirt rather than being shirtless, which is fine.
Maybe he was trying to be polite for Black Widow because he is a gentleman.
Maybe he should have been more polite by showing the goods.
We can't get everything we want, Trey.
Anyways.
Back to the climax of the movie.
Another thing I wanted to note here was when Pierce takes Natasha hostage through the pin on her chest and she zaps herself to get her out of it, and Fury just completely destroys him with the gun. It was another scene just showing how badass Fury was and that he's just like, okay, well, moment of weakness. I'm not going to let you get away with this. You're dead.
Yeah, just shoots him twice in the heart. Dead on.
Was it only twice?
I think so. When you're as fine as a shot as he is, you only need one shot, but he's also as experienced as he is to know that you should do two.
It was awesome.
It was.
And we get some last moments like Steve trying to save Bucky and Bucky finally coming around to like, oh my gosh, some recollection, and pulling Steve out of the water at the end.
Yeah, they both save each other in this scene. First, Cap pulls him out from under a giant metal something, and then Bucky saves him from drowning. Cap gets shot a lot in this scene.
So much, yeah. It looks painful.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to say about the battle before we go to the aftermath?
No, the only thing I really have to say is it's kind of funny and kind of sad that I thought the Captain America versus Bucky part was actually the weakest of all the fights in this epic climax altogether. Like, I thought the stuff with Natasha and Fury and the stuff with Falcon was cooler to watch than Captain America versus Bucky itself. But that might just be because the idea of putting in server chips to disrupt the satellites to stop Project Insight was just kind of silly to me, and I didn't care about that as much as the rest.
I don't really agree. I was pretty on the edge of my seat for all of it. I didn't distinguish like, oh, well, this part was weaker. I thought they were all good.
I think it's probably just because it's the most memorable part of the movie, and I've seen the movie so many times that I'm more interested in the stuff I don't remember as closely.
Fair enough.
But it's cool once they do make all the ships destroy each other. Though it seems like a dangerous thing to do in a relatively public area. They're lucky that the helicarriers landed back in the water.
Except for the one that destroys the building and Rumlow.
Oh, but it's S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. is evil and Hydra now.
Sure. Yeah, so we do see, after this, we see Sharon joining the CIA.
Indeed, and Maria Hill joining Stark Industries.
Which this is the first time I've ever realized that she actually joined Stark Industries. Do we ever see her again after this?
Yeah, I think it comes up in Ultron vaguely.
Her as part of Stark's business? Okay.
I think they also maybe mention it on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I'm not sure.
I wonder what she's doing for them?
Being awesome because she's Maria Hill, and I want more of her.
Yeah, but she's an agent. What is she going to do for them? Just like security?
I don't know. Be awesome. She's just a very competent person at everything.
She is. I'm saying she's too good. She's too good to work for Stark Industries.
I don't know. Maybe Pepper's like, yo, I need an awesome assistant. Now that there isn't me, Pepper, the awesome assistant.
Exactly. Should be relegated to an assistant. I don't like that.
Pepper was too, but she was like an executive awesome assistant who eventually took over all of Stark Industries.
Pepper started as an assistant and grew to the CEO. Maria Hill is already a super badass agent. She should not be someone's assistant.
Well, who's she going to work for now that S.H.I.E.L.D. has fallen? What, she's going to work for the FBI or CIA? Child's play.
I mean, seems better than Stark Industries.
Wow. I don't think you respect Stark Industries enough.
It's an energy company.
They do other things.
Weapons manufacturing.
Not anymore.
Anyways.
Who knows what they do?
We also see Rumlow get resuscitated and after being badly burned.
Indeed.
And we see the committee hearing with Black Widow basically being blamed for them not having S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore. You'd think they would thank her a little bit. I don't know.
The whole government public hearing scene is very similar to a lot of scenes in Iron Man movies. Because they have similar scenes in Iron Man 2 and 3. Wait, maybe it was just 2.
Yep. And Black Widow basically is like, well, screw you guys, because you're not going to put us in prison because you need us. So whatevs.
Yeah, which felt very Avengers-y, but this wasn't an Avengers movie.
It did, but it also, I feel like it's set up for the next phase.
Yeah.
It's very much brings up issues that they deal with in the next phase of movies.
Yeah, and the end of this phase, because this is the last Earth-based movie before Age of Ultron.
Yeah, but they don't deal with it in Age of Ultron.
Okay, whatever.
And then Fury's going into hiding. He's now dead officially, and he's going to go after the remaining Hydra agents, and Steve's going to go after Bucky. And I love the last line with Sam when he tells him, you don't have to come with me. And Sam's like, I know. When do we start?
Sam's just so cool.
Yep. On to the end scenes.
Yes. So the first end scene is a big one. And it's another secret Hydra base that has shown that they have Loki's scepter. And they have 2 superpowered twins in captivity.
Yeah, and to be honest, I feel like this might be the best end scene we've gotten.
It's so cool. They show, it's so cool. It gives us the most information of like any end credit scene. And we see, this guy that has super speed and this girl that has telekinesis or something. It's just awesome. And it was a really cool way to introduce Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch.
It was, even though it was a little awkward that this is like completely resolved in the start of Avengers 2.
Yeah. Also, how the hell did Hydra get the scepter? You'd think that the Avengers would have a sharp eye on that.
Where did it end up at the end of the last movie?
I don't know. That's kind of my point.
Did we ever see it? Maybe we didn't ever see it.
I don't know.
Oh, you know what though? S.H.I.E.L.D., Hydra. S.H.I.E.L.D. probably had it, and then...
Ooh! Yeah, that must have been it.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Huh.
And then the second end scene is just Bucky looking at himself in the museum, because whatever, sure.
He's getting his memories back, Trey. He's trying to learn about himself.
Yeah,
how do you not care more about that?
Because it's just the same. It's a cliche. Anyways.
Okay. So, before we get to our ratings, we should do the segments that we haven't done yet. So, our first one is, who's the character of the week? Who is the character who really stood out in this movie?
Who is not the title character.
Yeah, so not Captain America.
And I would also say not the main villain.
Yes, and not the main villain. Even though the Winter Soldier isn't even like the main villain, it's Hydra.
I know.
He's just the best soldier they have.
Though technically he's in the title.
Yeah, good point. I wouldn't give it to him anyways. I'd personally give it to Falcon.
Really?
It's really hard not to give it to Romanoff, but because Falcon was brand new and grabbed me so fast and like I just love everything about him, that stood out to me as something special. I love everyone's performance in this movie, but the fact that some new guy that I haven't seen before felt like he was on the same level as everyone else is especially impressive to me. So I'll do Falcon.
All right. I definitely agree. This is very hard because there's so many great characters. My top contenders do not include Falcon. It's between Nick Fury and Black Widow.
Just to be clear, those were my very, 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 very close number 2 and 3.
And I still don't even know who to pick.
Our first time doing this segment, and you don't have an answer. Great job, Trey.
Okay, well, Nick Fury is the most badass he's ever been. He actually showed how cool he was. And Black Widow, same thing. want to give it to Black Widow because I want her to win, but I feel like based on actual badassery in this movie compared to others, I think I'm gonna have to give it to Nick Fury.
Yeah. I love the backstory and like the slow opening up we get of Black Widow, but it's not as just absolutely badass as Fury.
Yeah.
And also we learn more about Fury's backstory. Like that whole story about his grandpa, who was an elevator operator back in the day, was just cool to hear about. It was so great.
I'm sorry, Black Widow, that I'm not choosing you.
You're a horrible person, you sexist bastard.
Wow there.
Sorry.
Okay.
All right. So for our next one, the best innovation of this movie. We already went over the worst repeat offender, the thing that's way overdone in the MCU, but we really wanted to point out the things that were the best new additions to the MCU. So for me, the best innovation was the fact that they had multiple main characters in this movie outside of an Avengers movie. Having Captain America and Black Widow together throughout the entire movie was fantastic, and their chemistry is great on film. And how everyone got plenty of time to shine was just exceptional. And this is the first non-true team-up movie that pulls that off so well. Which is funny, because the next one is Guardians of the Galaxy, where we have 5 great protagonists.
Yeah. Mine, I want to give an honorary mention to the twist of the film. What?
It's just funny that you have your honorable mention. It's just like your last one. You're struggling so hard to come up with one. What is the best innovation, Trey? Tell me!
This movie is hard to choose stuff, okay? It's all so good. I want to give an honorable mention to the twist because we haven't gotten anything like it and it was phenomenal. However, the thing in this movie that I think was the best innovation was the fight scenes that completely overhauled Cap's character and made him into a kick-ass person.
Yeah, like Captain America himself is the best innovation. They
Literally,
upgraded him so much in this movie. Yeah, because everything he's been in since this movie has been like this movie rather than like Captain America 1 and the Avengers. And that's amazing.
Yeah, and I am specifically saying the fight scenes, though, because they definitely are what did it.
Yeah, they make him feel so rawly powerful and unstoppable, and it's great.
And I don't feel like we've gotten fight scenes like this yet in the MCU up to this point. So I am going for that.
It definitely also feels the most real because it's very upfront man-to-man fighting rather than Iron Man who's flying around in a suit or Thor with like goofy over-the-top combat.
Yeah, definitely. So our last segment is called Not a Great Plan. And in this segment, we discuss the villain's plan and whether it was good or not.
Yeah. And like your honorable mention of the last segment, I think Hydra's plan of using S.H.I.E.L.D. to set up Project Insight is actually pretty well done, and they got super close to getting away with it. But Fury is just an unstoppable force, and single-handedly pretty much led to its destruction.
I would argue that Captain America and Black Widow were very necessary.
I mean, he uncovered the mystery.
Yes.
And if Fury did not uncover the mystery then, nothing would have stopped Hydra. And that's my point. It's a great plan because it was so close to being unstoppable.
Yeah.
The only reason why anyone had a chance against it was Fury. And another thing that's good about this plan is the reasoning behind it feels right. Like Pierce being like, hey, we could kill 20 million people and have world peace. The motivations behind it are well done. Rather than like the Red Skull being like, ha ha ha, I will destroy the world.
Yeah.
Or Loki's confusing whatevers.
So to be clear, you are saying that the plan was great.
It was a good plan. This is one of the better plans of the entire MCU, in my opinion.
Yes, I'm in agreement. I think their plan was almost flawless. And if not for that pesky Captain America and Nick Fury and those darn kids, they would have succeeded.
And their dog, too.
Their bird,
Falcon,
their
too.
bird, too.
Why wasn't there a dog in this movie?
Because there was a bird.
Fair enough.
All right, so what rating would you give this movie, Henry?
S. Just S. Perfect. This movie is as good as a movie can get.
Same, S. Flawless, love it, best.
Yeah. I feel like this is our fastest rating of any movie ever. And we've made it very clear why we think so.
Yep.
The characters are all done exceptionally well. The plot is done really well. Something that I usually note while we're talking about movies is the pacing and how well the movie is paced. I didn't really feel the need to acknowledge it because the pacing was great throughout the entire time. Most of the stuff with Bucky was really well done. The villains and the plan were good, which is one of Marvel's weakest points. So it's just an exceptional movie.
Yeah, it was definitely at the top of the Marvel flock.
Yeah. It's going to be great once we're caught up with the Marvel movies in this podcast, because making these episodes has really opened my eyes to every little deep detail these movies hold. And this movie is just great, and I want to see how it compares to the rest in the future.
Will we ever be caught up?
Yeah, we will. I probably should have calculated it by now, but it's hard to tell with what specials we're going to do because it's difficult.
There's also multiple shows airing at once and continuously coming out, so it's like, oh, will we ever be caught up?
I don't know. We're only doing specials on shows that have air dates that...
Specials, but we're still going to cover them.
True. I don't know. We'll see.
All right, so I guess that wraps up our show.
Indeed it does.
If you want to follow us on social media, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter at Marvelous MCU. You can find us on Instagram at Marvelous MCU Podcast, and you can send us an email at marvelousmcupodcast@gmail.com.
And wherever you listen to this podcast, please like, rate, share, review it. That does us a huge favor in spreading the podcast to all of you Marvel fans.
And on top of that, if you like our show, we would love if you could support us. We're currently paying out of pocket for our podcast, and we have created a Patreon page for you to make donations of your choice, if you are so inclined.
Yes, even $1 is super helpful.
Indeed, and you can find us there at patreon.com/marvelousmcu. So thanks for listening, and we hope you'll tune in next time to our podcast on the rest of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 1, episodes 17 through 22, which deals with the fallout of Hydra after Winter Soldier.